Hey friends, and welcome back to the Untold story, where history whispers and forgotten lives come gently back to life. Tonight, you're not just learning about ancient Egypt, you're living it. One dusty breath, one sunburned step, one whispered secret at a time. But before we slip through the sands of time, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy slow, immersive journeys through the world as it once was. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It always amazes me to see how many of us are drawn together by the quiet hum of curiosity across time zones and continents. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a soft fan for that steady background lull. Let your eyes get heavy and your mind go still. Our journey through the forgotten rhythms of ancient Egypt begins now. Welcome to the past. You wake up, but it's not your bed. And this isn't your time. The air is dry. The blanket beneath you is scratchy straw. Your back aches, not from age, but from sleeping on reeds. There is a faint metallic taste in your mouth. Maybe last night's beer, or maybe it's just the Nile dust. Outside, a single ibis cries in the distance. The river hums low like a drumbeat for the gods. Somewhere nearby, a woman sings to a baby wrapped in linen. The house next door is already stirring, the coughing of a grandfather, the soft whimper of someone praying. You wonder what for. You are in ancient Egypt, but not the Egypt of golden sarcophagi and tour guide brochures. Number. You are here to live the untold story, the part that doesn't make it into temples or textbooks. You are not a king. You are not a god. You are something rarer, real, and tonight, you'll spend one full day in this world. You will walk its streets, carry its weight, taste its fears, and find its forgotten peace. You'll see what the scribes didn't write down. There are things here, fragments of forgotten lives, echoes of old gods, and the secrets etched into the walls of mudbrick homes that never made it into papyrus scrolls. Things whispered, never spoken aloud. So lie back. Let the wind off the Nile lull you. Let the incense of old memories wrap around your lungs. Let your fingers sink into linen sheets that smell of earth and ash. You are no longer a tourist in time. You belong here for tonight. Let the sand remember your name. Your humble mud brick home. Your ceiling is cracked mud. Your floor is more of the same. Your home is one room, and it's smaller than your bathroom back in the 21st century. The walls are cool to the touch in the early morning, but will bake like pottery by noon. It smells like goat, because there's a goat. You share the space with your mother, two siblings, and a rooster who does not understand the concept of too early. Sometimes the rooster jumps on the water jar and knocks it over. Your father used to throw his sandal at it. Your father is gone now. The sandal remains. There's no privacy here. Everyone's sweat mixes. Your family sleeps side by side on woven mats, and you've woken up with your sister's elbow in your nose more than once. Your youngest brother talks in his sleep, mostly nonsense. But one time he said a name no one recognized. Then he laughed. No one else did. The good news? There's a breeze from the hole that pretends to be a window. The bad news? It lets in sand. Lots of it. The sand is everywhere. In your hair, in your ears, in your bread. But there's something else here. Something carved into the inside wall with a flint shard, a protective symbol, an eye. It watches the room even in the dark. It's old, older than the house, maybe older than you can imagine. You don't know who carved it, only that you never sleep facing it. Your mother says it keeps things out, but she won't say what things. She cleans it with salt water once a week. She whispers to it. Your grandmother used to do the same. In the mornings when the house is quiet and everyone is still half asleep, the eye seems to shimmer, not with light, but with memory, as though it's been watching families like yours for hundreds of years. Watching and remembering. A scarab beetle crawls across the floor. You pick it up and place it outside. Your sister used to say that beetles carry messages from the underworld. You stopped killing them after that. There's a chipped clay pot on the shelf with something white inside. You're not sure if it's flour or ash. It's best not to ask. Your mother hums while she stirs lentils. The tune is the same every morning. She says it was a lullaby once, but now it's a ward, a musical boundary against bad spirits. You've never seen a ghost, but you've heard things. Everyone has. And in this house, the walls remember. Morning rituals minus the soap. Your eyes are barely open, and already the dust is clinging to your skin. You stumble toward the doorless threshold and pour water from a battered jug onto your hands. It splashes into a shallow clay bowl with a satisfying plunk. You wash your face with your fingers, not out of luxury, but necessity. The water smells slightly fishy and slightly green. You don't ask why. This is the morning wash. A handful of Nile, a cold shock to your eyelids, and a grunt from your brother who wants the bowl next. Teeth are a luxury too. You grab a stick, smooth, splintered, frayed at one end, and rub it across your gums. It was soaked in mint oil once, weeks ago. Now it just tastes like wood and last night's lentils. But it's all you have. No toothpaste, no floss. Your teeth hurt sometimes, but so do everyone else's. You reach for your tunic, which hangs on a nail by the door. It's linen, but not the crisp white linen of a priest. It's stained, stiff in places, with a rip under one arm. It smells faintly of sweat and clay. You dress quickly. The house is stirring. The goat's bleeding. Your mother's already muttering about firewood and breakfast. She spits on the threshold for good luck. There's no mirror, but you glance at the reflection in a bronze bowl. Your eyes look older than you feel, or maybe the light is just bad. In the corner, beside the eye symbol carved into the wall, sits a tiny clay figurine. It's Bastet, cat goddess of protection. She's missing an ear. Someone once placed a necklace of garlic around her neck to ward off something that was never named. You light a bit of incense, if there's any left. A stub of myrrh, perhaps. The smoke curls lazily into the rafters. You breathe it in, though it burns your nose. You whisper something to the goddess. You're not sure if it's a prayer or just a wish. Outside, someone is already sweeping the alley with a palm frond broom. A neighbor coughs. A child sings a counting song. The air smells of fire ash and old grain. You step outside. The street is narrow, the sky already blinding. You squint, wipe your eyes again, and feel the sun's early warmth settle into your bones. This is the beginning of your day, and whether the gods are watching or not, you must begin it clean, or at least clean enough. What you wear tells everyone who you are. You pull your tunic over your head, feeling the familiar scrape of rough linen against skin. It's the same garment you've worn for months, maybe longer. It was once your older cousin's. Before that, it might have belonged to your uncle. Clothes don't belong to people here. They pass through families, like names, like tools, like debts. It's off-white, though white is generous. Time and sweat have tinted it a shade closer to sand. A rip under one arm flaps when you move. Your mother patched it once, but the stitch came loose again. She says she'll fix it after the harvest. She always says that. You tie it at the waist with a narrow strip of cloth. It was cut from an old reed mat, braided twice for strength. The knot doesn't hold well. You've gotten good at retying it one-handed, mid-step, while carrying a jug. There's no mirror in your home, but you know what you look like. A stringy figure in dusty linen. Not elegant, but practical. And practicality is its own kind of pride. You glance at your feet, no sandals. The goat ate one last week. You're barefoot again. Most of the village children are. Even some of the adults. Sand burns your soles by midday, but by then, you're too busy to notice. The rich wear polished sandals with leather straps. The priests wear clean linen every morning, pressed and scented with oil. You wear what you can, and what you wear tells the world exactly where you stand. Clothing is status here, even when it's simple, even when it's thin as air. There are stories that noblemen's kilts are folded 7 times before they touch skin. Your tunic has no folds, just creases from yesterday's sleep. You have no time for ceremony. The sun doesn't wait. You step outside. A neighbor walks by, an older woman with gold earrings that flash in the morning sun. Her linen is whiter, her scarf embroidered. You nod to her. She nods back, but doesn't stop. People don't linger without purpose. Down the road, you spot a scribe. He wears blue, real indigo. Only a few can afford that. His sash is dyed from crushed snails, they say, imported from lands beyond the sea. He carries a leather scroll case and walks like he knows more than you ever will. And maybe he does. Or maybe he just walks that way because his father did, and his grandfather before him. You pass a young girl wearing a necklace made of dried berries and bone. Her wrists are wrapped in colorful thread. She runs barefoot, laughing. You remember when you used to run like that, until your knees stiffened, until the work started. You notice a boy a few years older than you. He wears a wide belt with a carved charm hanging from it, a tiny amulet of Bes, the dwarf god of protection. You wonder if it works. He walks proudly. Maybe it does. Back home, your mother ties a kerchief around her head. It's patterned with blue zigzags, a gift from her sister long ago. It's faded now. She smooths it with her palm like it's silk. To her it is. Your sister wears anklets made from flattened copper coins. They clink when she walks. She says the sound keeps scorpions away. You're not sure if it's true, but you've never seen a scorpion near her bed, so maybe. You keep a piece of string wrapped around your wrist. It's nothing fancy, but your brother gave it to you before he went to work on the tombs. He said it would bring good luck. You've worn it every day since. It smells like salt and old sweat. You wouldn't trade it for gold. Clothes carry meaning here. They whisper who you are, even when you say nothing. There are those in the city who wear wigs made of human hair, oiled and styled for ceremonies. Their perfumes can be smelled 3 streets away. You've only seen them once, during a feast for the new season. They shimmered like gods, but their eyes looked bored. You wonder if they envy your dirt, your sweat, your simplicity. Probably not. As the sun rises higher, so do the expectations. A tunic must be tied tight. A head must be covered from wind. No one comments aloud if your linen has holes, but they see. Everyone sees. The temple guards wear stiff kilts with pleats sharp enough to cut air. They wear stone amulets. They carry staffs carved with falcons and eyes. You carry a bucket. But inside your pocket, a fold in your tunic, really, you keep a token, a shard of polished shell. You found it once by the river. It catches the light like a mirror, and when you hold it just right, you almost see the person you wish you could be. But then your brother yells from the path. Your mother shouts something about the bread, and you remember who you are and what you have to do. You retie your belt, shake the sand from your hem, step back into the day. The sun rises, and so do you. Breakfast in the old kingdom. You smell the bread before you see it. The smoky scent of barley and char drifts in through the open doorway, mingling with dust, goat fur, and morning breath. It's not the smell of a feast, it's the smell of enough. Enough to keep you moving, enough to call it a day's beginning. Your mother stands at the hearth, a small pit dug into the clay floor, lined with black stones and years of soot. She hums as she shapes the dough, flattened between her palms. The rhythm is familiar. Slap, press, rotate, repeat. She's done it every morning for decades, and she'll do it again tomorrow. Breakfast is not quiet, nor is it graceful. Your younger brother is already chewing noisily on a crust, eyes half open. Your sister is pouring leftover beer into a cracked cup, sniffing it first to make sure it hasn't soured. You get the last bit of yesterday's loaf, the hardest part, blackened on one side, soft on the other. It tastes like ashes and sunlight. And still, it comforts. You dunk the bread into a shallow bowl of beans and garlic. Not much, just a paste, thinned with water and salt. Some mornings there's dried onion mixed in, some mornings not. Today is an onionless day. Eat fast, your mother says. The sun waits for no one, and the gods don't feed the lazy. You nod, chewing, even though she says it every day. It's more incantation than advice. Food in this house is not measured in servings. It's measured in handfuls and sharing in silence. Your mother doesn't eat until the rest are full. Your sister always gives a little of hers to the goat. She says it brings luck. The goat seems to agree. You remember once during festival season when a neighbor gifted your family a fig. One figure. Your mother split it 7 ways. You didn't even taste it, but you remember how it looked. Perfect, round, almost glowing in the firelight. Like a jewel made of sweetness. Now, as you chew barley bread and warm lentils, you think about that fig, and you wonder if the gods eat better than this. Outside, the village is waking up. The smell of smoke is everywhere. Not campfire smoke, but the smell of clay ovens and burning dung. It drifts across rooftops, curls into alleys, and settles low to the ground. You step outside with your cup of morning beer. It's warm, flat, slightly sour, but it fills your stomach, and that's what matters. The drink is cloudy with grain. Tiny bits cling to your teeth, but it's filling. Some say it gives strength. Others say it keeps the desert out of your throat. You pass an old man with no teeth gnawing on a date pit. He nods at you. His lips are stained brown from palm wine. You nod back. Further down the road, you hear a priest chanting. His voice is deep, but the chant is thin. Meant for the gods, not for human ears. It floats above rooftops like incense, lost in the sky before it can be remembered. A child runs by carrying a bundle of wild herbs. She drops one. You pick it up and pocket it. Smells like mint, or something pretending to be mint. Your mother might boil it later for tea, or if there's time. You stop at the corner bakery. Bakery being generous. It's a slab of clay with two women in an oven pit. Their hands are dusted white. One slaps dough, the other turns it with a flat paddle. They work in rhythm, faces serious. Any bread left, you ask? The older one eyes you. Not for free? You show her a tiny amulet, a carved pebble in the shape of a fish. She snorts. That won't buy a crumb. Try again. You sigh, then offer a folded scrap of cloth. She nods, satisfied, and hands you a warm flatbread. You take it without thanks. She didn't expect any. Back home, your sister is sweeping the doorway. Your mother sits with her back to the wall, sipping beer slowly, watching the sky for signs. She says the clouds today look like falcon wings. A good omen. You tear the bread and share it with her. She doesn't speak, just pats your knee and takes a bite. In Egypt, the gods eat ambrosia, but people eat barley, lentils, garlic, onion, bread. And somehow it's enough. Because the rituals of eating are not about hunger. They're about memory, about duty, about beginning again. Every bite is part of a cycle older than any tomb, older than the Nile itself. The same flavors over and over, anchoring you to the land, to the moment, to your family. You finish your meal and lick your fingers. They taste of salt, ash, and barley. You wipe them on your tunic and rise. There is work to be done. Fields to tend, stones to lift, messages to carry, gods to please, shadows to ignore. But for now, your belly is full enough. Your mind is quiet enough, and the day can begin. Who you worship and why it's complicated. The sun is barely halfway through the sky when you stop to whisper a name. Not your name, not your family's. A name far older than yours and far more dangerous to forget. It's carved into the doorway of a neighbor's home, painted in faded red. Ra, the sun god, the creator, the all-seeing eye. But right beside it, drawn in soot with a trembling hand, is another name, Bez, the protector of children and laughter and birth. And if you walk another 10 paces, you'll see a shrine tucked into the shadow between two houses. A rough slab of limestone with a bowl of wilted lotus petals and a carving too eroded to read. People still bow there. They still leave offerings. They still whisper. They just don't agree on who they're whispering to. Because in Egypt, gods are everywhere, and no one really agrees on whose job it is to listen. Your mother worships Isis, but only in the morning. In the evening, she prays to Taweret, the hippo goddess who guards pregnant women. She lost 2 babies before you were born. She won't say their names, but she always places a few drops of honey by the hearth at night. For Taweret's teeth, she says, your brother swears by Anubis. He leaves tiny clay dogs beneath the bed to keep the spirits out. He says Anubis walks between this world and the next, and he can smell fear. Your brother doesn't fear much, but he fears being forgotten. Maybe that's why he likes Anubis. Your grandmother used to worship Sekhmet, the lion goddess of fire and plague. She used to spit 3 times before entering any room, just in case Sekhmet was watching. No one does that anymore, except your uncle. But he's mad. At the edge of the village, There's a man who prays only to the wind. No God, just the wind. He says it knows things the gods are afraid to say. He stands outside each night and listens. People avoid him, but they still ask him for weather predictions. So, maybe he's right. You, on the other hand, don't know exactly who you believe in. Some days you pray to Thoth, hoping for clarity. Other days you mutter the name of Ta, especially when your tools break. And sometimes, rarely, you look up at the sun and wonder if Ra is watching, or if the sun is just the sun. But you do believe in signs. Yesterday, a black ibis landed on your doorstep. That's good luck, or bad. It depends who you ask. Last week, the bread baked without cracking, a sure sign that your household is balanced. 3 nights ago, your sister had a dream of a crocodile walking upright. She's been avoiding water ever since. Everyone in the village has their own stories, their own gods, their own tiny altars made from stacked stones or painted pots or feathers tied to sticks. You've even seen someone pray to their own shadow, just in case, because belief here isn't about certainty, it's about survival. At midday, you pass the temple. It rises from the village like a stone dream, massive, weathered, humming with silence. The priests sweep its steps with careful reverence. Their linen robes are brighter than yours will ever be. They speak in chants, measured and slow, like time itself bends to their rhythm. Inside, you know, are relics, statues with eyes that never blink, bowls that hold eternal oil, scrolls written in tongues that haven't been spoken in generations. You're not allowed in, but you've snuck in before. Once, during the festival of flood, you saw the statue of Horus wrapped in gold leaf, towering above offerings of pomegranate and dried fish. You remember how it smelled, salt and smoke and lotus. You remember thinking it was beautiful and terrifying. You didn't sleep that night, not because you feared punishment, but because the statue looked back at you, and part of you wonders if it still remembers. There are whispers about the temple priests, that they know which gods are real and which ones are masks, that they choose what to tell the people, that sometimes they invent new gods to keep order. You're not sure if that's true, but you do know that when a priest died last season, they buried him with a statue of a god no one could name. It had no face, just wings. No one asked questions, not out loud. Back at home, your mother is scattering dried herbs around the doorway. She says it keeps the hungry ones out. You ask what the hungry ones are. She tells you, they are what happens when prayers are forgotten. You nod. You help her place a bowl of beer beneath the lintel, a gesture of thanks, or fear, or habit. You don't know anymore. You just know the house feels quieter afterward. That night before bed, you hold a piece of red thread in your hand and tie it to your wrist. You don't remember who told you to do that or why, but you've done it for years. It's not about logic. It's about balance. You lie in bed and stare at the ceiling, where a spider weaves its silent geometry. You think of gods, of names, of powers that live in stone and dust and breath. You wonder if belief makes them real, or if they were always real, waiting for belief to catch up. Outside, the wind shifts direction. The goat stirs. Somewhere, a jar falls and rolls. You don't get up. You just close your eyes. You whisper one name, softly, slowly, without thought, and hope someone, or something, is listening. Work is the word of the day. By the time the sky turns white with heat, your hands are already calloused with repetition. You carry a basket on your back, not because you choose to, but because someone must. It's woven from papyrus reeds, fraying at the corners. It digs into your shoulders, leaving little red trails that will turn brown by dusk. Inside, bricks, still warm from the kiln, still smelling faintly of smoke and earth. You don't know who will live inside the house they're building. Probably someone with a name you'll never say, someone who wears softer linen than yours. You don't ask, you just carry. Everyone in Egypt works, not because they want to, because the gods expect it, because the floodwaters rise and fall, and someone has to rise and fall with them. Children work, elders work, even the dead, some say, work in the afterlife. rowing boats across eternal lakes, planting ghostly grain in phantom fields. So you work. You pass a neighbor kneeling in his courtyard, shaping a clay pot. His hands move in rhythm, fingers coaxing life from dirt. He nods at you. You nod back. No words. You're both busy. Further down the road, a woman carries a basket on her head, full of leeks and onions. She doesn't blink when a fly lands on her cheek. She just keeps walking. Behind her, a group of boys chase a goat that got loose. One of them trips. The others laugh. The goat does not. Your work today is simple. Move bricks. From here to there. From hot to hotter. The overseer watches with arms folded. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. His presence alone reminds you that your sweat is measured and someone's counting the drops. He carries a rod. Not to strike, not usually, but to point, to gesture, to remind. Faster, he says, though you're already walking fast. You nod, not because you agree, but because there's nothing else to do. You unload the bricks onto a pile near the edge of a construction site. A half-built wall rises from the sand, dotted with wooden supports and shadowed by scaffolding. The foreman curses as he kneels, correcting a slanted row. Another man beside him hums a hymn to Ptah, god of craftsmen. He sings off-key, no one complains. You turn to grab another load. In the distance, a line of men file toward the quarry. Their bodies are dusted in chalk. Some carry tools, others carry nothing. Yet, you'll be like them tomorrow. Today is bricks, one task at a time. At midday, the sun hangs so high it disappears. The world becomes shadowless. You find a sliver of shade beneath a fig tree and sit. Your tunic sticks to your back. You remove it halfway, fanning yourself with a woven scrap. You eat a lump of bread and a slice of dried radish. It burns your tongue. You chew slowly. Beside you, an old man mumbles about his back. He says it's cursed. Says a snake spirit lives between his shoulder blades and tightens every time the sun rises. You offer him a sip of beer. He accepts. Why do you work, you ask, not expecting an answer. He smiles without teeth. Because even the gods need servants. You nod. It's not wrong. After rest, you return to the bricks. Your arms ache, your feet burn, your thoughts drift. You think of the farmer pulling reeds by the river, of the fisherman throwing net after net, whispering to the water for mercy. You think of the woman who spins thread from flax, her fingers bleeding but steady. You think of the temple scribe, hunched over papyrus, writing about gods who never work a day in their eternal lives. And still, you lift. Work here is not just survival, it's identity. A potter knows clay the way a mother knows her child. A baker knows fire like a priest knows prayer. And you know weight. You know motion. You know how to carry what no one else wants. And that's something. Some nights you dream of rest, a life where others carry and you merely float. But then you wake, and you walk, and you lift. Because in this land, work is not just the word of the day, it's the heartbeat of the world. That evening you pass a group of singers returning from the fields. They chant as they walk. Something ancient, something that echoes back from the hills. You don't know the words, but you know the feeling. Their voices rise like dust, softly, steadily, carried by wind. You close your eyes just for a moment and let it wash over you. Then you go home, and tomorrow you'll do it again. What the Nile gives and what it takes away. The Nile is not just a river. It is a god, a breath, a wound, a promise. It is the reason your village exists, the reason your ancestors planted roots in this land of cracked stone and merciless sun. Without the Nile, there would be nothing but silence. And yet, you do not trust it. No one does. Not completely. In the morning, it looks peaceful. The surface gleams like stretched bronze, smooth and deceptive. Children throw pebbles from the bank and laugh at the ripples. A woman washes linen in the shallows, singing to herself. Her voice rises, then vanishes into the reeds. But beneath the calm, the river is always moving, always hungry. You once heard a story. A young man tried to swim across during the dry season. Halfway through, he vanished. They say a crocodile took him. They found his sandal days later, buried in silt, bitten through. Your mother says the Nile demands respect. That's why she never lets your little brother go near it alone. That's why she tosses a pinch of salt into the water every time she draws a bucket. To remind it we're still listening, she says. And maybe that works. So far, no one from your house has drowned. But still, the Nile gives more than it takes. Most days, every year the water rises, slowly like a sleeping god stretching its limbs. The black mud it leaves behind is thick, rich, and full of life. You can smell it before you see it, that fertile rot of wet earth and rebirth. Your village calls it the gift of Hapi, god of the flood. During those days, you don't work bricks, you work fields. You stand knee-deep in the muck, planting seeds with calloused hands, your back aching from bending. The sun scorches your neck, but you don't stop. This is sacred work. Barley, emmer wheat, flax, the holy trinity of survival. You sing while you plant, not for yourself, but for the crops. The old songs say grain grows straighter when it hears joy. You're not sure if that's true, but you sing anyway. The flood isn't just water, it's prophecy. If it rises too high, the fields drown. If it doesn't rise enough, there's famine. Either way, the priests say it's a message, a whisper from the gods. One year, the river turned red, not from blood, but from clay stirred up too fast. People panicked. Chickens were sacrificed. A boy was sent to live with the priests, just in case. That year, the harvest failed. No one blamed the boy, but no one invited him back either. You walk along the banks, watching as frogs leap through wet grass, insects hum in spirals, a distant ox drinks slowly, blinking as if in prayer. You spot a floating limb. No, not a limb. A dead ibis, white feathers splayed like wings, drifting face down. You say nothing. You look away. Death is part of the Nile too. Sometimes it leaves behind fish. Sometimes it leaves behind bones. Once your sister found a clay amulet in the mud. A falcon, perfectly carved, eyes still painted. She kept it hidden for days, afraid someone would take it. She said it was from Horus himself, said it came from the bottom of the river to protect her. Then she got sick, a fever, sweating, shaking. She said the amulet whispered to her in the night. Your mother threw it back into the water. The next morning, your sister's fever broke. You never found the amulet again. But sometimes you think you see it in the reeds, half buried, watching. The Nile gives life, but it also gives secrets. There are rumors of things found after floods. Bones from the time before kings, statues that weep, pots with nothing inside but silence. You once heard of a man who followed the river south and came back changed. He never spoke again, just stared at the water. They say he saw the source, or what's guarding it. You never asked. You don't want to know. Some things are meant to remain beneath the surface. Tonight, as the sun dips low, the river glows gold. The wind carries the scent of wet grass and fire. You sit by the bank, letting your feet dangle over the edge. You speak aloud, not to anyone near, but to the Nile itself. You thank it, not just for water, for everything. Then out of habit, you whisper a warning. Take only what you must. The river doesn't reply, but the reeds shift, and you take that as enough. Children of the sun. They say you were born beneath the eye of Ra. Not just the sun, but the eye that sees all, that burns lies to dust, that watches kings and children with equal, unblinking judgment. You don't remember your birth, of course, but your mother told you the sky was cloudless that day, that the light was too strong for anyone to look up, that the midwife whispered a prayer to Sekhmet, not for safety, but for protection from the gods. Because being a child of the sun is a blessing and a burden. From your first breath, the sun has owned you. It tells you when to wake, when to rest, when to plant, when to beg for shade. It cracks the walls of your house each summer. It bleaches your tunic until it's the color of bone. And it decides who lives like royalty and who dries up like clay. You've seen children who couldn't bear the heat, skin blistered, lips split, heads wrapped in wet cloth too late to help. Your cousin was one. He ran into the fields without a hat. The fever took him 2 days later. Your aunt still leaves bread at the shrine of Ra every solstice, hoping he'll forgive her. But the sun doesn't forgive. It watches, and in that watching is power. You were told as a child that Ra rides his golden bark across the sky each day, rising from the underworld, sailing toward the west, and disappearing into the jaws of chaos every night, only to fight his way back again. You once asked your father, "Why doesn't Ra just stop?" He said, "Because if he stops, we vanish." You never asked again. There's a temple 2 villages away dedicated to the sun god. You've never been inside, but you've heard stories. They say the priests wear gold bands around their heads to reflect the light back to the sky, that they chant until their lips bleed, that they drink only water drawn at noon when the sun is at its peak, that if you look at the sacred altar too long, you go blind. You believe some of it, maybe all of it, because every time you walk past the temple's shadow, your skin tingles. Not from fear, from heat that isn't there. Once, during the Festival of Light, your village celebrated a rare event, a total eclipse. It happened just before midday. The sky darkened, birds stopped singing, and everyone dropped to their knees. Even the goats were silent. Your mother screamed, thinking the end had come. Your uncle laughed, too loudly, and was slapped by a priest. You didn't scream. You watched. And as the moon passed before the sun, you felt something cold in your stomach, like the world had exhaled and might never breathe in again. There are people who claim to be descended from the sun, the Pharaoh, of course. He is the son of Ra, divine, chosen. His blood, they say, is light. His breath is warmth. When he speaks, crops grow taller. You've never seen him, but once a traveling official passed through your village. His cart was painted gold. His robes shimmered like flame. And when he looked at you, it felt like the sun had chosen someone else. Children of the sun are not equal. Some live in palaces, their skin oiled and perfumed, fed dates and pomegranate, while priests fan them with ostrich feathers. Others, like you, live beneath the sun, because of the sun. You plant its gifts, you fear its anger, you praise its return each dawn, even when it wakes you too early. You are not its child by blood, but you are its child by sweat, and that maybe is more sacred. At night, you sit with your family around the fire. You watch the stars appear one by one, timid at first, then bold. You remember the story that Ra travels the night sky in his second form, not as a sun, but as a serpent of fire slithering through the dark, guarding the world from monsters that wait in the void. Your brother yawns and leans on your shoulder. He asks if the stars are holes in the sky where Ra's light leaks through. You tell him yes, because maybe they are. Before sleep, you whisper the hymn you were taught as a child. Ra above me, Ra below me, shine through my bones so I may not forget. Burn away the darkness I do not yet see, and wake me gently as your light first finds the earth. Then you close your eyes and hope tomorrow is bright, but not too bright. The market knows everything. If the Nile is Egypt's spine, the market is its heart. It beats before the sun rises, thumps louder at midday, and softens into a sleepy rhythm by dusk. But it never truly stops. Somewhere, someone is always trading something. A fish, a favor, a secret. You walk into the square just after the sun clears the rooftops, and already the place is alive. Flies circle the dates. A boy chases a chicken. Someone's shouting about onions as though they're gold. And you're here for lentils. But you won't leave with just lentils. No one ever does. The market smells like 100 things at once, most of them sour. There's the sting of vinegar near the pickled garlic stall, the sweetness of figs baked under morning sun, the sharp ammonia of old fish. Somewhere in the background, sandalwood smoke from a nearby shrine. You pass a man selling honey cakes shaped like cats. He's missing 2 teeth and calls you Little King, even though you're taller than him. You smile anyway. You pass a woman grinding blue pigment into powder. For paint? For magic? You don't ask, because in the market you don't ask unless you want to know. And sometimes knowing is dangerous. At the center of it all stands the gossip table. Not officially, of course. It's just an overturned basket covered with a faded cloth, surrounded by elders with nothing to sell but stories. And business is good. They whisper about the baker's wife who hasn't blinked since last week, about a man who traded his shadow to get out of debt, about a crocodile spotted near the irrigation canal, walking on two legs. You try not to listen, but you always do. You buy your lentils from an old woman with a cracked voice and one eye. She weighs the beans with her hand, never wrong, and mutters something under her breath as she scoops them into your bag. You ask what she said. She shrugs. A blessing or a warning, depends how you cook them. You pay her and move on. A merchant with green-stained fingers calls out to you. He's selling herbs today, dried mint, crushed lotus, and something he calls sleep leaf. Says it came from Nubia. Says it keeps nightmares away. You ask what it tastes like. He leans in. Like regret and old honey. You buy a pinch anyway. A boy with no shoes offers to shine your sandals. You let him. Not because they need it, they're just straw and leather, but because he tells good jokes. He says the Pharaoh has a pet giraffe made entirely of gold. You laugh. He says that's not the joke. The joke is that it eats taxes. You tip him 2 lentils. He bows like a priest and vanishes into the crowd. Someone plays a flute near the well. The tune is off-key but hopeful. You stop to listen. Nearby, a woman sells tiny clay amulets, eyes, cat's unks. One catches your attention, a small scarab, carved from a green stone you can't name. She says it belonged to a child who never cried. She says it can keep your thoughts quiet at night. You touch it, it's warm. You don't buy it, but it lingers in your pocket anyway. The sun climbs higher, the crowd thickens. You bump into a scribe with ink-stained fingers. He drops a scroll. You help him pick it up. He says thank you by quoting something from the Book of the Dead, something about hearts being weighed against feathers. You don't understand it. He smiles like that's the point. As you turn to leave, an old man grabs your wrist. His eyes are cloudy, but his grip is strong. Don't go near the eastern gate at sundown, he says. You ask why. He shakes his head. The dead are restless today. They might mistake you for one of them. Then he lets go and disappears into the olives. You finally head home with lentils, sleep leaf, and too many questions. The market is quieter now, but never truly silent. A baby cries. A dove flutters overhead. Somewhere, someone is still bartering for dried fish, for salt, for answers. And as you walk, you realize something. The market isn't just where people trade goods. It's where they trade truth, shaped, salted, and sung like everything else. And today, you may have bought more than you meant to. When the Pharaoh sneezes, everyone bows. You have never seen him, not in person. You've seen drawings, of course, on temple walls, on clay jars, on worn amulets passed between grandmother's fingers. Always the same, tall, perfect, godlike, always facing sideways, never meeting your gaze. The Pharaoh, son of Ra, voice of Ma'at, the one whose name is sung at sunrise and carved deeper than memory. You have never seen him, but you bow when he sneezes, because in this land, even his breath is sacred. There's a saying passed quietly between field hands and brick carriers. When the Pharaoh sneezes, the grain bends. It means when he trembles, the world holds its breath. It means even a cough from the palace can bring death to the village. Not because he commands it, because the gods might. Rumors come faster than boats. Last moon, a messenger arrived in town with blood on his sleeves and gold on his sandals. He didn't speak to anyone, just dropped off a scroll at the scribe's house and left before his horse finished sweating. The next morning, the baker's wife said the Pharaoh had a fever. By noon, the elders said it was a sign from Sekhmet. By sunset, 3 goats had been sacrificed, and a priestess collapsed from smoke inhalation during a protection rite. No one laughed, because sometimes rumors are true. In school, if you're lucky enough to go, the first thing you learn is his name, not yours, his. You chant it with cracked lips and sunburned tongue, over and over, until it becomes part of your breath. You write it in charcoal on broken pots. You draw it in the sand and hope no one steps on it. They say to misspell it brings misfortune. They say if you whisper it at night, a hawk will circle your house. No one wants to test that. He lives far away, in a palace carved from stone and cooled by servants waving palm leaves. His sandals never touch the same dust you sleep in. His meals are sung into being. His bed is wider than your entire house. And yet, when he speaks, the Nile listens. When he frowns, taxes rise. When he smiles, 100 drums answer. When he sneezes, the world stops. You once met a guard who had seen him, or said he had. He described eyes like black glass, skin that glowed faintly in darkness, and a voice that made your bones want to kneel before your mind even understood why. You asked, "Was he kind?" The guard stared at you for a long time, then said, "He didn't have to be." And that was answer enough. In the temples, statues of the Pharaoh wear crowns heavier than 10 goats. Their eyes are inlaid with gems. Incense burns before them day and night. Children press kisses to their stone feet. Priests sweep the floors with feathers. Once a year, a parade of gold and music passes through your village, bearing his banner. He is not on it, but his shadow is, and even that is enough to bring people to tears. Sometimes you wonder if he's lonely, if the divine ever feels heavy, if he dreams of walking barefoot without guards or titles, if he ever wished he'd been born a potter or a fisherman. Then you remember, gods do not wonder, only mortals do. One morning, the town crier stumbles into the market, panting, face pale. He shouts that the Pharaoh has recovered, that the fever has broken. People cheer, others weep. A child throws a fig in the air and catches it on the first try, a sign of good fortune. You bow your head and whisper thanks to the gods, even though you're not sure which ones were responsible, even though part of you wonders if he was ever sick at all. And then life returns. Grain is ground, bread is baked, taxes are collected, babies are born, dust rises, and so does the sun. The Pharaoh does not need to be seen. His presence is like the wind, invisible, undeniable, and everywhere. So when he sneezes, you bow, because that's what you've always done. And because deep down you know, even kings can bleed, but only gods make the earth tremble when they do. Temples are louder than they look. From the outside, the temple is silence carved in stone. It looms beyond the village like a slumbering god, all shadow and scale, heavy with stillness. The air around it feels thicker, quieter. Even the birds seem to fly a little wider around its walls. People speak in whispers as they pass. They lower their heads without thinking. You've done it too, because temples might be made of limestone and labor, but they are filled with something else entirely. You've only been inside once. It was before your cousin's wedding, when the priest called your family in to bless the union. You remember the cool air, the strange smell of melted resin and old papyrus. You remember your feet sticking to the stone floor where oils had been spilled in ritual. You remember your heartbeat, too loud in your ears, like it didn't belong to you anymore. And you remember the sound, not music, not chanting, a hum, deep and soft, but constant, as if the walls themselves were exhaling. Your cousin wept after the blessing. No one asked why. Temples aren't just for prayer. They are libraries, granaries, healing halls, and portals. Every hallway means something. Every pillar, every glyph, every flicker of torchlight was placed there with purpose. The priests say the gods live here, not as statues, but as presence. Invisible, but undeniable. You don't question it, because in the temple, even questions must kneel. You once heard a tale from an older boy that if you walk the inner corridors blindfolded, you'll hear the voice of Thoth himself, whispering secrets only scribes can bear. He said a friend of his did it once. He didn't come back. You didn't believe the story. Not really, but you've never stepped too close to the sanctum either. Just in case, the temple bell rings only twice a day, at dawn and at last light. The sound is low, mournful, as if it's calling not the people, but the gods, or maybe reminding them not to forget us. When the bell rings, even the goats seem to pause. Your mother always closes her eyes, not in worship, in memory. Inside the temple, the walls are covered in stories, thousands of them, painted and carved and inlaid with pigment, gods holding hands with kings, demons being crushed under sandals, eyes watching from every direction. Some of the stories contradict each other, but no one minds, Because the truth isn't always linear here. Sometimes it's layered, like incense smoke. You once snuck inside during a feast day when the temple was open to villagers. You followed a procession of white-robed children, their heads shaved, their steps rehearsed. They carried baskets of dried lotus and bowls of milk. You saw a priest draw blood from his own arm and smear it on the mouth of a statue. You saw a woman singing to a jar. You saw a boy your age standing motionless in a pool of oil. None of it made sense, but it felt right, like the temple was breathing through them. Not everything inside is holy. There are darker corners, rooms that smell of mold and burnt feathers, places only the high priest may enter. Some say there are scrolls locked in stone boxes, written in languages no one speaks anymore. Some say there is a chamber beneath the altar where a god once slept, and may again. And some say, if you press your ear to the sacred wall near the back hall, you'll hear someone breathing, still. At night, the temple does not sleep. Torchlight flickers through slits in the stone. The wind sings low through narrow halls. Dogs bark at shadows that don't move. And sometimes, just sometimes, a soft thud echoes out from within, like footsteps too heavy for human feet. Your uncle once heard it while fishing nearby. He dropped his rod and ran all the way home without his sandals. He never fished near the temple again. Temples are louder than they look, not with noise, but with memory. The stone holds every cry, every chant, every heartbeat offered within its walls. And even when no one is there, the place is full of presence, of purpose, of something too ancient to name. When you pass the temple now, you bow your head, not out of fear, not out of duty, but because the silence is listening. And sometimes you swear, yet it bows back. God's in the brick dust. You are not a builder, but today you carry bricks. They are sun-baked and rough, still warm from the kiln, crumbling slightly at the edges. Each one weighs about as much as a newborn goat. Heavier if you're tired, which you always are. Your hands are dry, cracked, coated in ochre dust. The air is full of it. It sticks to your lips, your lashes, the crease of your neck. It colors your breath. You cough it out and taste salt. The gods, they say, live in temples, but sometime they're in the dust. You work beside men twice your age and half your humor. No one talks much, not because they're unfriendly. They just know words waste water. Each load is a rhythm. Lift, step, exhale. Lift, step, exhale. It becomes your chant, your silent hymn. The overseer shouts occasionally. Not orders, just grunts. He's missing part of one ear. No one asks why. You suspect the bricks know. You pause at midday. Your tunic sticks to your back. Your palms feel like leather soaked in vinegar. There's shade under the scaffolding, barely enough for 3, but 5 of you squeeze in. Someone passes bread. Someone else offers a fig, already half smashed. You eat in silence. A fly lands on your arm. You let it stay. You've learned not to swat blessings when they come. One of the older men, Kahi, you think, points to the half-finished wall and says, "That's not for us." You ask what he means. He wipes sweat from his brow and replies, "It's for time. It's so the gods remember we were here." You look at the bricks again. They don't seem holy, just mud, hay, ash. But then again, so are you. Maybe that's the point. There's a boy here younger than you. He hums when he works. Simple tunes. One day you ask him what he's singing. He shrugs. "My mother used to hum it while grinding barley. Said it kept ghosts from crawling up through the floor." You don't laugh, because some nights when you're half asleep, you hear grinding from under your own bed. A priest comes by in the late afternoon, not to help, to bless. He walks barefoot through the dust, trailing incense smoke behind him like a second robe. He sprinkles crushed blue lotus on the foundation and mumbles a prayer to Ta, god of craftsmen. No one stops working, but they move quieter, more carefully, like their hands are being watched. He leaves behind a tiny statue. It's rough, made from the same clay as the bricks. A simple face, no eyes. Someone sets it on the highest point of the wall in progress. And suddenly, it's not just a wall, it's sacred. The work is slow, brick by brick, layer by layer, mistake by mistake. You accidentally drop one, and it breaks in half. You expect the overseer to shout. Instead, he just says, "Name it." You blink. "What? Name the broken one?" he says, "so the gods know who's been humbled." You whisper a name, not your own, a secret, an old wound. He nods. You place the broken brick into the wall. By sunset, your arms feel like rope. Your back is a single knot. Your fingers no longer close fully. But the wall is taller now, wiser. You brush dust from your cheek and look at the fading sky. Swallows are darting between beams. Someone begins a song, low and slow, a builder's song, meant for sore hands and sore hearts. You don't know the words, but you hum along anyway. As you leave the site, you see a woman kneeling at the base of the wall. She touches one brick with her forehead and whispers something. Then she leaves a dried date beside it and walks away. No one asks who she was, because the gods might listen even when we don't. That night, as you lie down on your mat, your bones aching, your skin stained with the memory of clay, you wonder if the gods truly watch from above, or if they sit quietly inside the things we build, the crooked lines, the bent corners, the imperfect weight of things made by imperfect hands. Maybe holiness isn't in the temple. Maybe it's in the dust you leave behind. And maybe that's enough. Midday means more than just heat. Midday arrives not with a sound, but with a stillness. The air thickens. Time slows. Even the flies grow lazy, buzzing in drunken loops. The village exhales in unison, one long, invisible sigh. The world folds in on itself, just a little, and for a moment, everything forgets to move. You sit under a stretched linen canopy that barely counts as shade. Your back sticks to the wall behind you. Your water jar is warm, not sun-warmed, but body-warm, as if the jar itself is sweating. Your tunic clings. Your thoughts cling harder. This is not just the heat of the sun. It is the weight of Ra at his highest. The god at full brightness, full strength, staring directly into the world. There are stories about what happens if you stare back. No one tells them twice. Your family naps. Your mother lies with a cloth over her eyes. Your brother has a straw wedged in his mouth, gently rising and falling with each breath. Even the rooster, your sworn enemy, is motionless, wings open, beak slightly parted, surrendering to the air. You try to sleep too, but the heat has teeth. Midday dreams in Egypt are strange. Not the nighttime kind. Those are soft, forgettable. No, midday dreams come quickly, burn hotter, and sometimes leave marks. Once you dreamed of falling upward, into a sky filled with scarabs that whispered your name. Another time, you heard the Nile speak, not in water sounds, but words. It told you to be careful. You haven't swum in it since. There's a belief, whispered by midwives and herders, that midday is when the veil between this world and the duat, the underworld, is thinnest. It's when the gods nap, and when other things wake. So people lie still, not just from heat, from caution, just in case something is passing through, and it doesn't want to be seen. A breeze stirs the corner of your mat. You don't open your eyes, you know better. Sometimes it's just wind, sometimes it's not. The temple bells do not ring at midday. The priests say it would be disrespectful, like knocking on a god's door when he is clearly not taking visitors. You once asked what happens if you do. The priest didn't answer. He just looked up, toward the sky, and blinked once, slowly. Some days you dream with your eyes open. The wall across from you melts a little. The roof ripples like water. You blink and it's normal again, but not quite the same. You tell your sister once. She says, "Oh, that's just midday seeing. It passes." You ask if it ever doesn't. She shrugs. If it doesn't, you learn to live with it. An hour passes, or maybe 3. It's hard to tell. Time sticks at midday like sap from a fig tree, slow, sweet, and impossible to wash off. The only things that move are shadows, stretching long like lazy snakes. You trace them with your finger. One of them forks like an ankh. You don't know if that's a sign or just coincidence. In Egypt, there is often little difference. Eventually someone coughs. A signal. The village begins to stir again. Mats creak, doors scrape. The world stretches its limbs and pretends it wasn't just dreaming of scarabs and ghosts. You rise slowly, bones aching from stillness. The sun is lower now, not forgiving, but no longer cruel. You splash your face with water and whisper a thanks. To Ra, to the breeze, to the silence for not becoming something else. Midday in Egypt is more than just heat. It's an agreement. You rest, and in return, you are not noticed by the things that travel on hot air and echo in bright stone. You sleep and you are spared. You sweat and you are remembered. And when you wake, you are grateful, even if you're not sure why. Plagues and portents. It begins with frogs. Not many, just one or two, sitting in the well where there shouldn't be any. Then locusts, thin, dry-bodied, clicking against the clay walls like knuckles. A few at first, harmless, curious. Then a goat is born with two tongues, and the whispers begin. No one says the word out loud at first, not even the priests, but everyone knows what's coming. The sickness. Some call it a plague, others call it a test. The elders say it's a message from the gods. The children just cry more at night. You feel it in the air, thick, damp, expectant, like the moment before a thunderclap. Except there are no clouds, just dread. Your neighbor's daughter is the first to fall ill. She was laughing that morning, running in the dust barefoot, chasing a hoop of reeds. By dusk, her skin was blotched, her breath shallow. Her father carried her to the healer wrapped in linen, like a jar of oil. She didn't come back. They say her eyes turned glassy before the end. Like a statue, like she'd already been carved into myth. The healer says it's bad air. The priest says it's divine punishment. The baker says it's because someone disrespected the temple cat. Everyone believes a different truth, but no one feels safe. Your mother mixes herbs into the cooking pot and burns dried myrrh at every window. She traces protective symbols on the door with red ochre and salt water. Your brother ties garlic around the goat's neck. Your sister whispers old lullabies into jars of oil and buries them beneath the house. You do it all, not because it works, but because it might. Then the dreams begin. You see a shadowed figure walking through the alley, dragging a staff that scrapes against stone, but makes no sound. You hear your name whispered behind your ear while you sleep, even though no one is there. Your cousin says he dreamt of the Nile flowing backward, thick with ink. When you wake, your hands smell faintly of ash. No one wants to sleep anymore, but exhaustion is heavier than fear. A blackbird lands on the temple roof and does not leave. For 3 days. On the 4th, the river turns cloudy. The fish float belly up, white and gleaming like bones in the sun. The priest fasts in the inner sanctum and won't come out. Someone leaves a calf tied at the base of the temple steps. No one claims it. One morning, you find a message scratched into the clay outside your house. A circle, and inside it, a single eye. It wasn't there the night before. You ask your mother. She doesn't answer. She just washes the mark with salt water, scrubbing until her hands bleed, and then burns the rag. Another child dies, then an elder, then 2 workers from the granary. The air begins to smell sweet, like bruised fruit and old wine. People stop gathering in the square. Conversations become glances. The market stalls are left half covered. Bread goes unbought. Water sits untouched. Stillness spreads faster than the sickness. But not everything flees. The temple cats stay. The ibis birds still call from the reeds. The sun still rises, even if it feels more distant now. And one night, a voice from the darkness, calm, clear, says, "This has happened before. It will happen again." You turn to look, but no one is there, just dust and memory. Eventually, the sickness passes, not suddenly, slowly, like a heavy fog lifting, like grief peeling away in layers. Some survive, some don't. No one speaks of it directly, but you see the marks on faces, in fields, inside the eyes of children who no longer laugh as loudly as they did before. The frogs are gone now. The locusts have moved on. The well is quiet again, but you keep a pouch of garlic under your mat. and your mother still draws symbols in the dirt with her toe each morning before the sun climbs. Just in case, because in Egypt the gods speak in omens, and sometimes they whisper through illness and ash, and sometimes they wait. Worship isn't just for the priests. You've never been inside the inner sanctum. You've seen the priest pass, shaved heads, white linen, walking slowly as if the ground could crack under their steps. They hold censers, bowls, scrolls written in signs you can't read. They speak to the gods. You just whisper. But that whisper, it counts. Your mother prays before boiling water. Just 2 words, same ones every time. You've never asked what they mean. You don't need to. Your neighbor hums softly as she grinds barley. Her song isn't in any temple book, but her hands move with rhythm, with intention, and that too is worship. A boy you know buries feathers in his garden to bring rain. Another paints his eyelids with soot to keep away the demons of sleep. A girl leaves petals in a jar of oil and says it keeps her father from nightmares. None of these are rituals written in stone, but they are sacred because they are remembered. You carry a tiny scarab in your tunic. It's chipped. It once belonged to your cousin, who gave it to you before joining the river patrol. He said it kept his heart from drowning in fear. He never came back. You still wear it, every day. Worship in Egypt is not always loud. It's the quiet repetition of action. The way your grandmother sets the table with 1 extra bowl for her mother, who passed 30 years ago. The way your uncle ties a reed cord around his ankle before walking into the desert, so the wind knows I belong. The way you don't step on certain shadows, or whistle after dark, or say the names of the forgotten. The temple priests offer milk and honey to the gods. Your offering is different. A moment of silence when you pass the broken statue near the river. A glance toward the moon when no one is watching. A handful of lentils left near an anthill. Tiny things, easily missed. But the gods, if they are real, notice the small, because they are everywhere. You once saw a woman cry into the Nile. Not sob, just silent tears. She took a palm leaf and wrote something on it, in marks that looked like scratches, then let the water take it. It floated for a moment, then vanished beneath a ripple. You watched. She never noticed you were there. But later that night, it rained. The stories say only priests can speak to the divine. But the wind doesn't ask for titles. The soil doesn't care for scrolls. The stars blink for everyone. And sometimes when your eyes are closed and your heart is quiet, you feel watched. Not in fear, but in recognition. There's a shrine outside your home. Just a rock and a piece of faded linen. Your mother says it's for Taweret, the goddess of protection during childbirth. But no one's been pregnant in your house for years. Still, every month, she refreshes the linen. Not because she expects a child, but because she once needed Taweret, and the goddess listened. You don't stop honoring someone who showed up when you were small and afraid, even if they never show up again. Sometimes worship is an old bruise pressed gently over and over until it doesn't hurt as much. Sometimes it's telling the same story to a different flame each night, hoping one of them carries it higher. Sometimes it's just surviving and knowing the gods are watching from inside your breath, not judging, just remembering. So know you are not a priest. You don't hold incense, you don't chant, you don't wear white, but you do look at the stars and wonder where your ancestors sleep. You do place your hand on your chest when thunder rumbles without clouds. You do speak to no one, just in case someone hears. And if that's not worship, then worship is too small a word. Thank you for staying with me until the end of tonight's Untold journey. If your eyes are growing heavy and your thoughts are drifting like papyrus boats down the Nile, I hope you found a little wonder, a little peace, maybe even a little part of yourself, among the dust and whispers of ancient Egypt. There are still so many stories left to tell, some hidden in forgotten tombs, others buried in the quiet lives of everyday people, waiting for someone like you to hear them. So if this journey felt meaningful to you, consider gently tapping like or subscribing, not out of habit, but because you want to come back. And I'd love to have you here when we uncover the next forgotten corner of the ancient world. Until then, sleep softly, dream boldly, and may the old gods watch kindly over your night.